Hi everyone, it's Agnes, and today we have another wonderful person that has agreed to come on. Emily is here with me. Hello, Emily. And
Hi.
she has sent in one of the how to get a specific back success story, which I have read out, but hearing it in her own words obviously gives you a lot more detail. So she's going to share her story in more detail today. So welcome, Emily. And where are you in the world? For starters, where are you?
I am in New York State in America. And it's funny because when you posted about me, I think I said I'm in New York and you automatically thought New York City, but I'm actually like upstate. I'm like 7 hours from New York City.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, well, that's good. It's good to, it's just nice to put the Google pin on the map, you know?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
people are all over the world, but it's nice to know where people are from. So,
Right.
where do you want to start? What do you want to? You want to start at the beginning? I mean, you can talk about like even way back to when it fell apart, if that's what happened, and what.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think that's important. So I met my specific person in the summer of 2016, and we dated about 6 months, and then he was relocated for work about 3 hours away. And after about like 3 months of him living there, he was like, maybe start looking for jobs in this area. And I'm a teacher, so we really only are hired in September. And he's like, okay, so for September, we would have been dating a year. Let's like take the next step, move in with each other. Well, I applied for a job, was offered it immediately. So we had only been dating like 6 or 8 months and we were moving in together. And things were rocky. It's always hard living with someone for the first time. And we had only been together for a few months. And I had a lot of insecurities. Like I was constantly jealous or thinking like, his coworkers, or I don't really know where it stemmed from until later when I sort of examined it more closely. But then he was promoted, but to go back to where we grew up. So I was in this new town and he went back for his job. And that was in like May of the following year. So that's when it fell apart. He was like, we're doing long distance now. You constantly think, something's up or something's going on, like it's just not working. So we separated the first time in May. And, when you are separated from someone, like you look up like how to get your ex back. And one of the first things that came up was another group or a program. And I'm not going to get into specifics, but I went that route, followed step by step by step, ended up getting him back within 2 or 3 months, but nothing had changed with me. Like I was still
You can, if you want to share what you did, because I mean, if that, whatever you did then helped you, feel free to mention it if you want to. It's up to you.
So it was the whole like 30 days, no contact. And then you like send out a little feeler, try to like hook him back in. And I mean, that worked. It did work, but the same things came up because I hadn't done any work around myself. And so I was still jealous and still insecure and still unhappy. And so it all was pushed back on him and we broke up again. Like, duh, of course we were going to break up again. Nothing had changed. So the second time I went back to those same steps, and it just didn't feel right. Like I knew it wasn't, even if we got back, it wouldn't be long term. Like I knew that in my head. And actually through this group, I met a really close friend. Well, I mean, now she's a close friend, but I connected with one girl and she was like, try law of attraction. Like it seems like you're into it, and sent me to your page. And I'm like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. I knew there was a piece missing, like in me, and I didn't know like where to go for it. I didn't know how to fix it. And this friend like steered me on that path. And so I found you. And okay, so let me think. So November we broke up. I like heard about your videos maybe the end of November. So maybe after like 2 weeks of trying this other thing that I knew wasn't really going to work. And
what year are you talking? 2016 or 2017?
This year, so 2017.
2017. Okay.
Yeah, like just a few months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so around Christmas, I reached out after taking all this time to work on myself and didn't get a response from him. And that sort of was like a light bulb moment for me. Like, I'm focused more on him. I'm not ready yet. Like, the world is saying, Emily, you're not ready yet. And so I took like 2 more weeks and really worked on myself. And then I told you that like crazy thing happened at the hospital. And I'm like, it's a sign.
Can you share that? Because that was amazing.
Yeah. So my person works at various hospitals around New York State. He probably services like 6 or 7. And I have a girlfriend that works at one that I know he's sometimes at. So I met her for lunch, and like my whole drive there, I'm like, it's going to be amazing when I run into my person. You know, he's going to miss me. Like, thank you so much that I run into him and we talk. And I just kept like thanking the universe for having it happen. Yeah. So I get there, you know, I'm kind of like scanning. I don't see him. I'm like, oh well. So I get there my lunch, and the whole time it's in the back of my head. And as I leave, instead of being like, oh, I didn't see him and, you know, my day's ruined, I was like, that's okay. You know, maybe it'll happen next time. Yeah. And about 2 hours passed, and my phone starts to vibrate, and I look, and it's him. I'm like, oh my God. And so I answer, and he's like, I saw you at the hospital. I'm like, shut up. Like, no, you didn't. Like, I just felt so like empowered. Like, I did that. I created that because I was grateful instead of focusing on like that missing piece. I mean, and I learned that from you. So thanks.
I like how you didn't crash and burn when it didn't happen, you know, because it's so easy to go, oh, it didn't work, and I did all that visualizing, and now it hasn't happened. It doesn't work. It's like, it's so easy to go there, and you just went, no, it's okay. Maybe next time.
Well, I mean, yeah, I wasn't always there by any means. You're making me sound like I'm like a saint or something. But,
you did.
It's funny. So so this friend that I had connected with, she started making progress with her, you know, significant other, and I wasn't yet. And to be honest, it was hard. You know, like you feel like, what am I doing differently? Or like, you know, to compare yourself. I mean, it's natural, and you just have to tell your thought, like, nope, I'm not having that today. I can't go there. Yeah. And like, I forget, someone you interviewed said, like, I say, cancel. And I started doing, like, just get rid of it. I can't have it in my space. I can't.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Okay. So what happened after the hospital and the phone call? What happened after that?
So he, you know, said, I saw you, like, you were beautiful. Like, I didn't want to look away. I'm like, oh, thanks.
Lovely.
I mean, it was like a 2-minute phone call, but I think like 48 hours went by, and I had some x-rays done for like an issue I'm having, and I knew that he'd be able to read them, and I knew like, well, you know, typically men want to be like the protector and the provider and, you know, like Mr. Fix-It. Maybe that's how like I'll ease conversation. He'll be like, could you take a look at these for me? I really need your help. And it hooked him. He responded. But I think, I don't know, showing that like I was confident enough to like put myself out there and step forward. I'm not really sure, but he initiated contact with me for several days after that. And then about a week later, called me one night and was like, I just miss you. I can't do this. Like, we have to talk. I love you. I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's 10 at night. What do you want to do? And he actually drove out to 3 hours to see me that night so we could like hash it out. And I'm like I never would have imagined in a million years that happened, that would happen. Yeah, it was sort of letting go of the expectation, I guess.
And so when you actually met, were you able to, like, were you doing like any self-love stuff? Did you feel really good about yourself? Were you nervous? What was the feel?
Yeah, you mean like in those few hours that it took him to drive?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was freaking out. Freaking, yeah. Yeah, I just kept, yeah. So I just kept saying like my affirmations over and over and over until I was blue in the face, until I felt like, I'm incredible. And if he wants to walk away, that's his loss. But I know who I am and what I deserve. And it was hard. I mean, it was hard to get there, to be honest. The first like week or maybe even more that I was saying them, I was like, really? Do I believe that about myself? And now, like, of course I do. Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Exactly. But that takes practice and time, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So from the time you split up to the time he said, I want to see you in the middle of the night, what was the time distance?
I think like 6 weeks.
Not that long.
Well, yeah, it's funny because saying it now, it feels like, oh, that's super quick. But in the moment, it felt like, years had passed. Every day was long.
Yeah. But you don't know how quick it's going to be. So that's why it feels so long, because it could be 6 weeks, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. You don't know at that point. Yeah. So, wow, that's fantastic. So can I ask you, in that 6 weeks, what sort of things did you really focus on to get your mind straight and your emotions corrected?
So at first, if I'm going to be like upfront and honest, I only did like the, get your ex back, or manifest a text, manifest a call, but I wasn't feeling any different yet. Like I felt like, oh yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to come, but I didn't feel it about myself yet. Yeah. And then, I watched.
Emily, was it like were you still in longing and neediness about wanting him at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I just watched so many of those success stories, and people were like, you got to focus on you. You got to focus on you. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'm fine. Yeah. And then once I started to, it was like just a switch was like flipped. Yeah. It was like, yeah, I'd be totally okay if he wasn't around. Like, yes, I want him, but not like I'm going to survive. Yeah. And once that I had that shift, it all seemed to just sort of fall in line.
So with the shift, you obviously did affirmations because you mentioned them. Like, what other sort of self-loving things would you do to make yourself feel good?
Just during the day, my drive to work is like 20, 25 minutes. Like I made a playlist of like my all-time favorite songs that I could just like belt to the top of my lungs. Yeah. And like on my way to work and on my way home, that's what I did.
Yep.
Because any spare moment I had where my brain wasn't like moving, I was thinking, and I couldn't have that. I had to just, like raise my vibrations and stay, positive and energized. So a lot of singing.
And that's a wonderful way to raise a vibe without having to do, anything like technically I'm doing a self-love thing, like a meditation or whatever. It's such a great way to get around the back door. Music's raising vibe, So that's
and I'm all
the day, like 20, 25 minutes there, 20, 25 minutes back. That's like a good 45 minutes a day that you're really escalating your vibe. So that's quite a lot.
Yeah. And I would intertwine that with listening to your meditations, like depending on how I woke up in the morning, I'd be, whether I was like, oh, I'm already in a good place, I'll, sing today, or like, I'm not feeling so hot, I'll do some meditation or some affirmation, which is, technically not a good idea to meditate in your vehicle, but I listen to it in the car. So
yeah, and you can do open eye meditation where you just relax.
Yeah.
Breathe. There's nothing wrong. I think, God, if people could do that while they were driving, there'd be a lot less road rage.
Yeah, right. But the other thing I did a lot is, I'm pretty creative. So like I'd write, or I'd like just draw or make like collages out of stuff from a magazine. Like I know it sounds silly, but just to like release that so it wasn't pent up. And I was really fortunate to have met this girl through this other program I was with, and we would talk on the phone for like an hour every day. And I think, like, I don't know if there's a way for all of us to somehow like connect. Like, I know like in the comments of the YouTube video, there were people who were like, I want a support system, but like, I don't know what I would have done without her.
Yeah.
It's, if you don't have a, family or friends that naturally are, drawn to this, then it's a little difficult, explaining like, oh, I'm in my vortex. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Actually, there is a lot of the people have formed a WhatsApp group. So if people want to know about that, there's one person that kind of organizes it. So I'll put the link down below, but yeah.
Yeah. I just think it was really helpful to feel like I was going through it with someone.
For sure. Oh, that's so great. So, okay. So you had your nightly meeting in the middle of the night, and then he said what he had. Do you want to share a bit about what happened after that?
Yeah, so we just kind of discussed like, how we both love and care about each other, and like the timing was a little off. He's, deciding about going back to school, and he didn't feel secure, like he could provide, and, all these things going on. And I guess my idea was sort of like, let's build together. And his idea was, I'll build and then I can have it for you. I'm like, that's so it was a lot of like back and forth, but I just kept focusing on like, I know what I need and what I deserve. And as much as I'm not willing to settle, like, I love you, so let's somehow meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So we sort of ended things that night, like, let's see where this takes us. We put it all out there. Let's move forward and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And it was hard to not have like a, yes, we're dating, or like, yes, we're committed, or, we're seeing other people. Like, it was never discussed.
Yes.
But I just had to let go. Like, I had no choice but to just like let it go and not be in control.
And I think, Emily, that's something I'll say about our gender. Women are always looking for, we're a couple, we're committed, we're getting married. It's like we pressure with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're and I had exactly the same experience as you. I had to let go of that and just enjoy a really nice day with my specific person and stop doing that. Because if you are relaxed and just enjoying the moment, enjoying the day, the person naturally wants to give you those things. Because you're not trying to get, you're there to give. And that's the difference. I'm not saying you can't. Eventually you probably need to talk about it at some point, but you got to build those good moments and those good days with no pressure first. Mm-hmm. Really important. It sounds like you learnt that too. And so, like, are you still in that phase where you're just enjoying each other and not not pressuring, not asking for anything specific, just seeing where it goes? Or?
Well, no. Okay. So that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And since that night, we've seen each other. I live, 3 hours away now, but one weekend I was up for like a doctor's appointment or whatever, and we had spent time together. And like you said, I wasn't asking those questions. I didn't want to go there. I was enjoying the moment, but it ended up being brought up. And, without me like probing at all, the like commitment conversation came up.
Yeah.
And things were said that, I know, he loves me. I love him. Yeah. I don't need a label. I don't. I don't know. It sounds weird to even say out loud, but like, I don't. I know the end goal. I know where we're headed. I don't need him to say like, you are officially my girlfriend. Congratulations. Yeah. I know it's in my heart and in my gut. Yes.
I so agree with you on that. So agree with you. It's like you free yourself. You free yourself from not trying to pressure and get them to do something for you. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that's like a total 180 from the person like I've always sort of been. I'm a teacher. I'm naturally controlling and like organized, and always my head is like one step. Yeah. So something I did and that I would like recommend to anyone who's struggling with this is I made a list of like all the things that he had done for me that I appreciated or was, sweet. Like, over the summer, he showed up at my door with dinner or whatever, like as far back as I can remember, made a big list. And whenever I was feeling like, is this going to work out? Does he love me? Maybe he's just stringing me along. I would open up my journal and read. And I'd be like, there's no way a man would do this if they weren't in it. Yeah. Like, get your mind into there because
instead of what he's not doing or what he hasn't done yet or what you think he should be doing, or that's so great. That's such a practical, wonderful tip, because it's all your thoughts. Like, we have our negative thoughts about ourselves, but then we also have another whole category of negative thoughts about that particular person, and then there's another whole basket of the relationship thoughts. So that's such a good way to live from the end result of what you want. And it's evidence. Like, you can't argue with evidence. It's a whole bunch of real evidence that your head can't go, well, that didn't happen. It's like, well, yes, it did. And you can't argue with facts.
Right. Yeah. And even like in the moments of us spending time together, I would do that. Like, he would open the door for me. And I'd like think in my head, like, I'm so lucky to have someone who opens the door for me. Instead of like, oh, I didn't open it that time. Like, wait, but it's just, honestly, at first it was forcing the thoughts to be positive in nature. Yes. But after, a few times of doing it, it felt like, well, why wouldn't I be positive? Yeah. I mean, it is forced at first, you just have to practice.
Wow, that's fantastic. So that was 2 or 3 weeks ago, you were saying you had that kind of conversation. So what kind of, where are you at in the last 2 or 3 weeks bringing you up to this moment?
I mean, we've just been moving forward, progressing, I guess. There's still no labels. There's been, conversations like, the end goal is marriage and commitment, and, we're both headed towards the same thing. We want to make sure that it's what we want, and we're both in good places. I mean, we haven't been together long enough where I feel like I'm ready right this second, but we know that we're both moving in that way. And I feel like, I don't know, a weight's just off my shoulders. Like, I don't have to be upset about this. I don't have to deal with it. Like, I get to choose if, the fact that I didn't get a text on my lunch break is something I want to dwell on. Like, I get to choose that, and I'm choosing not to, because look at everything else that I do have. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy, and I know that we're in a good place. There's been like no arguments, no disagreements. We're always like totally in sync. Yeah. So I feel like it's sort of, I was sort of like shocked that you wanted like to, have this interview, because I feel like I don't have it all together. I'm still trying. There are days that are still challenging. Yeah. There's moments where I'm like, cancel. Yeah. But I feel like it's always going to be a process. So.
And it is. I don't, raise my flag to this, but it's still that way for me too. It's still where you see how good you are in relation to how much you're loving yourself that day. It's like, if something goes wrong, slightly wrong in the relationship, it's not the end of the world. You just recorrect. As Abraham Hicks always says, you're hopping out of the vortex into the vortex. It's not a huge deal. And the thing is, we know where to go now. We know where to go. You got to change this, and then it changes your emotions, and then it changes your projection, and then the relationship just falls right back into that really beautiful groove. But it's never a relationship problem. It's always a between me and me problem, really. My focus, my lack of self-love, my lack of sleep, my lack of eating properly, drinking enough water, exercising, focusing on good things, like you say, being positive. So, it's like it doesn't change. Even when you've got 20 years of doing this, you still get up and do the same meditations, affirmations, getting yourself back. It's still the same. It doesn't change. It's a lifestyle for really the rest of your life. If you want that, it's there to help you. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you said that, because the first, 3 or 4 days we had reconnected. I'm like, I'm healed. I did it. Like, yay, woohoo. And so I wasn't doing my, my affirmations or my self-love for a good, 3 or 4 days, maybe even 5.
Yeah.
And oh my God, could I feel a difference?
Yes.
It's wild. When you don't do it, you feel like just run down and you're like this pressure.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy to me how much of a difference it would make.
Yeah.
And like, I wouldn't say I do them every day now. Maybe every other, or like I'll go a morning and then skip a day and then, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it has to be, you know, like you think like, you know, going to the gym, like you can go to the gym for a year and you're all buff and cut and lean. And then if you don't go, you know, your muscles are gonna, you know, break down. You have to do the upkeep. Yeah. And I think maybe that's like a step that people are missing. Like just because you like got what you wanted, I mean, you're constantly putting out everything, and it's out there whether you know you want it or not. It's out there, and so you got to do the upkeep.
Yeah, and you do slide. I mean, I've had moments in the 20 years where something else has happened, like, you know, a relative getting sick and, you know, a death or things like that, where you just slide and you've got to deal with these things that take, you know, there are crises or something that needs your attention. But I see, like exactly what you've said, it's like even if you let go of it for 3 or 4 days, your tendencies to go back to negative thinking just creep in again. They creep in, and then the negative stuff creates negative emotion, and the negative emotion will go out and create a negative situation. And then you go, whoops, hang on, don't want that, come back, and then you start again. And it is like going to the gym. It's like your mental muscle starts to get flabby.
Well, that sounds gross.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to, like anything that you think that you want to say to help those that are still in that position of, you know, my specific person's still over there, I'm still over here, it still hasn't happened. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's not happening because of, you know, like you got to fill in the blank. Like it's not just not happening. It's not happening because there's something that hasn't been worked on yet. Like I said, when I reached out over Christmas and didn't hear anything back, I'm like, well, what am I missing?
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like, it's not like, you know, the stars aren't aligned. It's like there's something you got to do the missing piece.
Yes.
And you have to discover what that is. You know, how are you feeling? Are you still focusing on he hasn't done this, he hasn't done that? Yeah. You know, I mean, it's in your control.
Yes.
You know, and I think the only other thing is,
when you did that at that time around Christmas, what did you come up with was the missing piece for you at that point?
That I was focusing on the lack.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was the holidays.
Like the absence of him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, I thought for sure, like, you know, on the holidays, I was traveling with my family, and the plan was that he was going to come. Like all my family and their significant others were going on this little excursion. And I mean, I just focused like he should be here. He loved this conversation. You know, he'd fit right in. He's missing. Yeah. I thought for sure, like I'll hear from him for the holidays. Yeah. And when he didn't, you know, my little heart was broken, but and I reached out because I wanted to fill that, thinking that he would fill it. Yeah. Not realizing, no, I fill it. I fill that.
Yeah. What great insight, because a lot of people struggle with that over the holidays. That's such a big one. They're not here. I'm still alone. I'm not loved. I'm not wanted. I'm not worthy, whatever. And it's amplified at Christmas. So the fact that you could say, I have to fill it, not him. What a great shift in perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I feel like you're making me out to sound like some like great, like I have it all together. And like, I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm just like anyone else. There were nights of like crying myself to sleep or feeling like intense anger towards myself, him, towards like the world. I mean, there are always going to be dips. Yep. But how you like rise from that and you decide like, no, today's going to be an awesome day. I'm going to get over this hill or mountain or however it feels. And I mean, it's totally up to you. So
Yeah, fantastic. Well done to you. It's one thing to hear things, it's another thing to apply it. This is, this is the thing. Hearing all that law of attraction stuff can be really inspiring, but you've got to go, okay, what is it I've got to work on? And like you say, find those things that you haven't worked out yet. What is it about me that I haven't worked out yet? What is it that I'm thinking that I'm looking at this in a way that's not effective or whatever? So, and you do go through layers of learning along that. I mean, you did it quite quick. 6 weeks is pretty quick that you were able to just work out what the wrinkles were. You've worked out the wrinkles. So that's just so great. I love, to me, seeing people get relief through working on themselves and then they get their manifestation, no matter what the manifestation is. It's like no one can take that away from you now. Like you've done it. You've done it this once on a really big scale. That way, that sets the benchmark for any other manifestations in any other area for the rest of your life, because you've got the confidence now that you did it for this and it's yours.
Right.
You earned it. So.
Yeah, well, and honestly, when you say 6 weeks seems really fast, and I totally agree it does, but I think, to be honest, the biggest thing that helped me maybe even move that quickly was having support. Like, I can't say enough how much it helped to have this one girl by my side. Yeah. And we don't even live in the same state. Yeah. We're hours and hours apart, but on my down day, I would send her a text help, and she'd send me all these loving things, or a picture to make me laugh.
Yeah.
And it was just that feeling of God, someone gets it.
Yeah.
This is hard. Yeah. And it's constant, but I have a pillar here.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, my advice is find someone you can really talk to and that gets it.
Yeah.
It was crucial for me.
Yeah. And then that person, because they know about the law of attraction and the processes and different things, they can recommend stuff that's going to help you, not say, oh, well, he was a dickhead anyway, you're better off with him, which
right.
is useless. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and oftentimes she'd send me a video of yours and be like, you got to watch this. And I'd be like, that's perfect. That's just what I needed. Thank you. How did you know? Yeah. It was like we were, I don't know, going through the same thing, totally in sync.
Yeah. Wonderful.
It was just great.
Wonderful. And you still have contact with her now? Is she still a part of your life and everything?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, it was funny. She called me right before I got on with you, and she's like, good luck, I
love you. What's her name?
Oh, Tiffany.
Tiffany. Hello, Tiffany. Thank you for all the good work you did with Emily.
Yeah, very great.
She's the silent partner in the background. It's funny you say that, Emily, because I had when I broke up from a relationship years ago, I met a woman, and she was 20 years older than me, but she was really calm and really into the law of attraction. And her and I became friends, and she bought me my first book, Law of Attraction book, from Florence Scovel Shinn. And then she bought me The Law and the Promise by Neville. And still to this day, 25 years later, we speak on the phone 4 to 5 times a week, and we go through law of attraction stuff, and we do, what are you grateful for? What do you want? And what makes you think you're going to get it? We answer those 3 questions. And I'm speaking to her this afternoon. So my friendship was the same as how yours got together. It was at a time of real need, and I was not sleeping, not eating, and I was really mentally desperate. And she was my pillar. So, and we're still friends today. And she's my one person that I do all my nutting out with, because she knows me so well and I know her very well. So it's like we can go, oh, remember that thing we read 5 years ago? That was really good. That you can apply to this. And you break down the mechanics and you help each other. So I totally agree with you. It is massively, massively useful. Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's a Facebook group about law of attraction, Save My Life or something. I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just, like, I don't feel like you can't do it if you don't have someone, but it just made it, I mean, so much easier. Like, that would be my advice to, like, either in the comments of the video or, you know, on Facebook or like a meetup group or I mean, something, someone to connect with.
Yeah. And you can just go to Facebook and put Law of Attraction groups or Neville Goddard groups or Florence Scovel Shinn groups, whatever author you really resonate with, you can find people that really read and apply that particular thing. So, and then like you say, you're in there, you start posting, you ask for help, and then you start to gel with certain people, and that's where you find your flock. They're your flock. Yeah. Yay! That's fantastic. Yay. Oh, I love when you guys come back and help other people, because I'm only one person and I can't do it all. So it's great. I just love seeing that people get relief. I love seeing that they move through something and they learn stuff about themselves, and then they get just enriched relationships and more money and amazing jobs where they feel that's meaningful work and, you know, all that stuff. I mean, this is why we do this stuff, is to create results, but in a self-reflective way. Nothing is out there. It's always in here, and in here. So, yeah, excellent. Is there anything else you want to say, Emily?
Well, I mean, just that it's a process, and don't get like super down on yourself or discouraged if you have an off day or an off few hours. Like, I mean, even like over the weekend, I had like a weird few hours where I, you know, just had to like force myself out of that. I mean, just because I'm here like sharing my success story does, you know, by no means mean that like I have it all figured out. Like I'm working on it, but it's totally a process.
Yeah, it is. And I would say that totally applies for me too. It's a daily, you know, I still have days where things shit me and I get into bed and I cry and I go, I hate this. And then I go, what are you doing? You know this stuff. You go, which bit are you going to apply now? But yeah, the thing is, we're human. We're not robots. We have feelings. We have a whole array of feelings, and sometimes things get to you and you have to let those feelings pass through. It's not about you don't have feelings anymore after a certain amount of time of manifesting something. It's about letting the feelings just come in and then go out, and then you go, okay, what have I got to change here? Because that started up here. My interpretation, what I did in looking at what that was over there, I interpreted it badly, and then I got a massive negative emotional response. So now I need to break that down and work on it. So I just think you do that for the rest of your life. You know, it's not about, you don't sail through and like you're happy every day and you feel peace, love, joy. It's not like that. We are what we are. So yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think it is important, because people, I do think, say, oh, why can she do it? She must be, you know, more advanced than me or whatever. No, it's just using the toolbox, using the toolkit of stuff and picking out the ones that you need out of the toolbox to apply to this specific thing I'm going through right now, finding the best method for you at that time. I think too, it's really important that if you're a really visual person, to really use the visual component. If you're a highly audio person, to really use the audio. Use what you're really good at. If you're a touchy-feely, you're more like that, use that when you're doing imaginal scenes, when you're trying to get healing of some kind. It's using the things that you learn. What way do I learn best? You ask yourself that question and you go that way. So it makes it easier. Use what you're already good at. Yeah,
like in your in some of your meditations where you're saying certain affirmations, like at first I would just say them like along with you, whatever you said, I said, you said, I said. And then I started deciding that maybe some of those didn't fit with how I was feeling or what I was experiencing. So I'd like swap out certain words. And those had like an emotional response for me. So like I made it fit with myself. And I even like wrote them on a whiteboard in my mirror, or a whiteboard and on my mirror. So like I'm surrounded by this, like even on a day where I like don't want to see it, I see it. And oftentimes like I would listen to like the whispering technique, and then I would go and write in my journal, like as if that had happened. Like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what happened today, because I write. That's how like my brain processes. I write it out.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do, and then go back and reread them. Like, this is going to happen. I know it is, or it's already happened, when it didn't really. I was just living from it.
Yeah.
So I think adjusting, like you said, the toolkit, you know, adjusting it, tweaking it a little bit. But I mean, I'm just so grateful that like you put all the tools out there for us. I mean, I don't think I would have been here if it weren't having you provide me with those tools. So I'm grateful and appreciative.
Lovely. Thank you for appreciating. I think it's, you know, there's so many different techniques and things, but it is, sometimes you only need to do 3 out of the whole 15, and you stick to those because those are the ones that work for you. And everybody has a different thing that they're drawn to. Not everything works for everyone. And the really important thing is, people often say to me, I got an email this morning again, which is the most effective technique? It's not the technique, it's you. The driver of the technique is, you've got to have the belief, you've got to have the knowledge to know how to maneuver the technique, but it is the whole vibe of you that you put in, which is the faith and the belief that that technique will work for you. That's what makes the technique come alive. The technique is a dead thing. It doesn't work unless you breathe life into it. So I think that's really important to know. Yeah.
And I feel like some days you're more in it than others. Like, I remember, you know, mornings I would wake up in the morning, be like half asleep, or, you know, getting the sleep out of my eyes, and would like do the meditations, and like I'm not all in there, as opposed to the times when I do it and like my whole body will like tingle, or I'll get like, you know, that warm feeling in my chest. Like, then I know like it's, you know, working. As opposed to like, I have to do this, let's just get it over with. And you know, the first few times might be like that, but after a while you should feel it. I think. I mean, I felt it.
Yeah, and that takes time, because you're saying something like an affirmation, like I am loved, and then your head goes, no, you're not. So you're not feeling it, because you've been not feeling it for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, however old you are. You have felt unloved, and you've carried that around, and you've practiced I'm unloved so well, you've generated the feeling of I'm unloved. So to change that, it does take a little bit of time. It might take a week, it might take a day, it might take 2 days. It might just be a moment where you're totally alone and you're in the dark. You've got that affirmation going and you finally feel that love for yourself. That's a beautiful moment. But don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen on the first 2 goes that you do it.
I mean, it's funny you said that, because I had certain affirmations that were like my go-to, like I am confident, I am secure, and like I would just say them going on my drive to work, like just nonstop. I am confident, I am confident, I am confident. And the first, I don't know, even like 20 or 30 times, I'm like, really? Am I? Like, then why am I so? And then by the end, 20 minutes later, I'm confident. I'm like, yeah, I'm confident. It can take a while. But you got to just stick with it and believe in yourself. So,
isn't that a great moment where you feel that, where you head to say, are you right? No, you're not. And then that moment where, like, when you say, like you're saying, sometimes it does take, that block of time. I remember once I laid on my bed, I was feeling really unloved, and I sat there for 2 hours saying, I am loved, I am loved, I am loved. Nothing happened for an hour and 45 minutes. It took me nearly 2 hours to shift that I'm unloved to I am loved. But I thought, I'm not leaving this bed until I feel it. I thought I just was laying there thinking, this is so intense that I can't shift this. And I thought, this is in me. I'm creating this. No one's here from my childhood. No one's here from my present. No one's here from, the loved ones that I would love to get love from. It's me that's doing it. It's me that's doing I'm unloved so intensely. And it was a moment of realization that it was me that had to learn how to do I am loved so intensely. And that was my new skill to learn. I didn't have that skill then. So, but it just requires from 20 minutes to 2 hours, somewhere in between there.
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of the comments like underneath the videos, and oftentimes I see people saying like, I'm so frustrated, it's not working. Like, just don't give up. You gotta stick with it. Like, yes, I agree 6 weeks was really fast. Yeah. But stick with it.
Stick with
it will happen.
And like you said, Emily, when you were in your 6 weeks, you didn't know it was going to be 6 weeks. You had in your head an undefined amount of time ahead of you, which is a lot more scary than if you had known it was 6 weeks. So you actually didn't know it was going to be that quick. You had to live with the unknown question mark of, I don't know how long this is going to take, like everybody else. So yeah, you just...
Well, and I was able to compare it to like our first separation. And once the timeline of that separation had passed, it was like chaos in my brain. Yeah. Like last time it only was, 3 or 4 weeks, and now I'm at 5. Like, well, oh my, and
yeah.
I feel like it didn't matter. I mean, like, yes, it mattered how long it was, but like, I'm ecstatic that like him and I have reconnected, but I'm almost more happy that like I'm my best self now. Yeah. Maybe that's selfish. I mean, I don't know. I love that I'm with this man, but I love me more than like I ever knew was possible. And like, that's the exciting part. Like, that's what you get. You get yourself. Who you'll have forever.
And someone who really desperately wants a specific person, they go, oh, no, that won't be me. I still want him more than I love me. But the same thing happened to me, where you do so much work to try and get that person back, and you do your self-love, but somewhere along the line, you realize the specific person is the secondary gain. The first gain and the real jewel is the fact that you're free to know what to do if you ever feel needy, and that you know how to correct it, and you know how to get yourself back into alignment. And that freedom, I agree. I think that is the biggest goal. I think that is one of life's biggest achievements, is to feel and know how to get to that place. That is just, it's indescribable, the freedom that gives you. And until you experience it, and you already have, it's like you can say that to people, being in a self-loving place is the freedom, is the goal, is it. The specific person's a secondary manifestation. But it's like that's the gift that your specific person gives you when they leave, is that you have to discover that. When you discover that, the thanks goes to them and to you, because they made you feel, well, it feels like they made you feel, it was you that made you feel it, but the pain that it caused you to go within so deeply that that's the jewel that you discover. And it's brilliance, isn't it? It's real brilliance.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure there's people who will watch this and be like, no, like, I just want them. And like, I've been there. It sounds like you've been there too. I'm sure everyone at some point has been there. Like, I just want to feel that relationship again.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta just like get through that. I mean, yeah. And it's funny. I would even say like, I'd often like say like, thank you, universe, that, you gave me the sun this morning, or like I would just send like my thanks and appreciation. And one of the things I would like thank the universe for was the separation, so I could work on myself and grow.
Yeah.
And it was hard to admit that like maybe this was a good thing. Yeah. But I mean, the person I was 6 months ago isn't the Emily that I am today. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited about that. So.
Yeah. And what's great is then you take that into meaningful work, travel, more money, learning, like doing a course and getting a degree, whatever it is that you want to do. You take that self-loving energy and it touches everything that you want to put your hands on. So
I mean, it's exciting. I'm now trying to manifest this new job that I want. Yeah. And so it's sort of like, it's this challenge, like, oh, I can't wait to prove that I can do it. Like, it's no longer the scary, like, is this going to happen? Is it going to work? It's like, I can't wait until I now have like this success, it's empowering. That's exactly what it is. It's empowering.
Yeah. I did an interview with a girl called Jay last night, and I don't know if you've heard it, but her journey was about really wanting to work for an airline. Did you see it?
No, I have not.
okay, well, the interview, I did part 1 and part 2 interviews with her because she had a specific person manifestation and she had an amazing dream job manifestation. But she was too short to be an airline hostess, to work on the airline. So she used the law of attraction to grow 2 centimeters to get that job. And she was well beyond growing age. She was in her 20s. So she was too old to grow. She visualized the interview. She got the interview. They measured her. She was 160 centimeters. And that was the absolute minimum you had to be to get.
Oh, that's wild.
So yeah, so if you want a great manifesting a dream job story, she talks about it in part 1 and she talks about it in part 2 of the interview. So yeah, it blows your socks off how she used the law of attraction.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and she's in Taiwan, and she had about half a dozen manifestations, and those were the 2 biggest ones. But mind-blowing mindset. Incredible. Just use this stuff for everything. And who would have thought to use it for that? I mean, the fact she even had the thought, I'm too short, I'm going to grow myself. Like, I just think I wouldn't have thought of that. Like, that's an incredible thought process to have when you're past the growing age. She just went, no, it doesn't matter. I just want to get into that job. It's my dream job. So, wow. Yeah.
Well, I didn't watch that one, but I'm wondering if she talked about, or if she did like smaller manifestations before that.
She did.
You know, like that sounds really big. Like
that
sounds
huge.
like a huge.
Yeah.
She did smaller ones before that.
She did, like imagining being in an interview for the airline, and she talks about just the whole process of what was happened in the interview. And then one interview didn't go so well, so she went home and she quickly revised it. And she revised it and revised it and revised it until she felt happy with it, and then she let it go. And then she got a call about being offered the job. So even when you screw up an interview, or you think you've screwed up an interview, you haven't done very well. She actually said, and you'll see it when you watch it, that they asked her a question she had absolutely no answer for. And she said the only thing that came to mind was, everyone is you pushed out. And she said that. And then they were like, well, what does that mean? And she explained it. And she said they were like, we've never heard that before.
Wow.
So yeah, so you, this dream job story, amazing dream job story. Even with the little potholes along the way, who cares? You revise that and you move on. So it was just that, always staying on top of yourself mentally. Even when things go a bit funny, you can still correct it. You can still find it. You can still, So yeah. I don't know if you've seen it, Emily. I've done a dream job playlist if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah. Well, sort of just getting back to like the little manifestations, I know that helped me like build confidence. Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So, well, this girlfriend and I used to like have this little like game we play. Like every few days, like we pick like something totally random, like a random word, random object, and we'd like see who could manifest it.
Yeah.
Like one day, it was like to see a certain color on a watch.
Yes.
And, she texted me a few hours later, like, you're never going to guess what I saw. And it was like, you need to like build yourself up. Like, I mean, I don't know. I felt like, oh, okay, well, I could manifest the word whatever, like this crazy word that I didn't think I'd ever hear in a million years. Yeah. And like, I heard it out of the mouth of one of my students, like, oh yeah, I can do this. It just, I don't know. It was like this little like game we just played like for fun to sort of, I don't know, build our confidence. But I mean, dream job or relationship is hard work. Yeah, work up to it.
Yeah, those are much bigger things. That's a good idea. That's a good game. I think, especially for people that have just hopped on to learn about the law of attraction. I think that's good information, because jumping to a dream job or a specific person when you haven't ever done any law of attraction stuff, it's like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do that? So yeah, I think that's very helpful for people to, you test yourself just on little things.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the days where like it wouldn't happen, I'd be like, okay, well, what was different about me today? And I'd sort of examine like what was I maybe doing that like it didn't come. Like I always thought that there was like a why,
Yeah.
like when feeling a little bit more negative, or I let myself sort of like dwell on the past, or what was I doing
Yes.
that it wasn't created? Not like it didn't come, it
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just on yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. What am I doing that didn't come? That's a powerful question, because you can get to an answer and then you can dismantle what it was and then you can get the thing that you want. So, yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yay.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me
Thank
share
you
my
for
story.
coming.
I feel like,
I mean, you're probably going to get a lot of questions in the thread. So if you get time, pop onto the YouTube and because they often like asking people the questions directly. So if you have time, that would be lovely if you can pop on and have a look and
yeah, of course.
do that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, if I
Beautiful.
can help at all, that would be, I
Yeah.
mean, incredible for me if I could help others. I still feel like I'm sort of figuring it out myself in some ways, but
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Well, when you're a step ahead, you can always hold your hand out to the one behind you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording, Emily. Just hang on and then we can say goodbye just on our own. Bye, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Emily.